Politico reporter Mia McCarthy. She joins us. Mia, good to see you. It's been a while. There's a lot going on, though, on Capitol Hill. I want to talk, though, about one cabinet pick in particular, and that's, of course, Matt Gaetz. He was tapped to be the next attorney general here. And I want to talk about what Speaker Johnson is saying about this House Ethics Committee report. The committee was supposed to meet on Friday. That was canceled. They're going to meet now on Wednesday, presumably to talk about the release of the report. What does Speaker Johnson want the committee to do?
Yeah, right now, Johnson is requesting that the committee not release the report. The Ethics Committee has made very clear that they are independent from the Speaker's office. So it's not really clear what's going to happen at this point. Again, on Wednesday, they are going to meet to vote on whether to release that report. But Johnson has said that it would open a Pandora's box, that it would set a new precedent for releasing reports of this kind, investigating members who are no longer in Congress. Obviously, Matt Gaetz was originally a member, but he did resign last week.
But Speaker Johnson has been quite circumspect about the fact that, he has no say in what the House Ethics Committee does. So by saying this, is he somewhat telegraphing to maybe Republican members on the committee on how to come down on this? Because Speaker Johnson, to your point and to others, he can't tell the Ethics Committee what to do or what to release, right?
Right. He's not able to tell them what to do. That's kind of the point of having an independent House Ethics Committee. However, it is notable that he is commenting, saying that he doesn't think it should be released. And he, is obviously, he had visited and traveled with President-elect Trump this past weekend and before. He has said that he has not had one word about this ethics report with Donald Trump. But it is notable that he is kind of now saying that the report should not be released.
So the chairman of the House Ethics Committee, Congressman Michael Gaetz, Republican of Mississippi, have he and Johnson spoken, or what has Gaetz said about the report itself? Where's he coming down on it?
Yeah, Gaetz so far has been pretty tight-lipped about all of this, kind of leaving it to the committee. When I talked to Johnson last Friday, he said that he had planned to meet with Gaetz to request that this not be released. I'm not sure if they have talked since then, but I know he is still requesting that the report does not get released.
So, Mia, there are some Republican senators like John Cornyn from Texas who are essentially saying, no matter if the Ethics Committee releases the report, senators are going to see it anyway. He thinks it's going to come up anyway in the confirmation process here. Do a lot of Republican senators think that as well?
There are definitely plenty of senators who have expressed their own concerns over the information that's in the report and want to be able to look at it before they confirm Gaetz to become the attorney general. Now, there have been a few options on how that information gets transferred to the Senate committee, whether that is just sent to the committee and nowhere else, whether it is presented publicly, whether it ends up getting leaked publicly. And like you said, many senators have predicted that they think this information will make it out regardless. So, kind of offering, saying we should see this before the confirmation hearings or as part of the confirmation hearings.
So, Mia, your colleague there, Nicholas Wu at Politico, is also reporting this today, that Congresswoman Susan Wild, she's the top Democrat on the committee, has told a small group of reporters the Gaetz report should be released here. So you see this kind of falling on bipartisan lines here. Democrats want it released. Republicans might not want it released. So we'll just have to wait and see. What's the behind-the-scenes feeling there on Capitol Hill about the Gaetz nomination overall? Do people think it's going to face some hurdles or roadblocks? Is it smooth sailing or not? Is he even going to get a confirmation hearing?
Yeah, I mean, right now, many senators are kind of pushing it off, saying, we'll wait till the confirmation hearing. But there are still a handful of senators who have already expressed their concerns, that have already said, it's going to be an uphill battle for Gaetz to get that confirmation that he needs to become attorney general. So that, and, that's not even just behind the scenes. That's very publicly, there are senators who are saying that now. We'll see if it makes it to a confirmation hearing, but regardless, it sounds like there are going to be hurdles.
Okay, I want to talk, though, about recess appointments. And it's very procedural, and I've been trying my best to kind of break it down for the viewer to have them understand what it means. And correct me if I'm wrong. This would require a vote for the Senate to adjourn, and then Trump basically appoints who he wants to fill these positions, albeit temporarily here. And I want to put up this reporting from your colleagues at Axios, saying this: Trump is personally calling senators to press them to confirm Gaetz to be his attorney general. A senator who received a call said Trump believes he will have the quote-unquote ferociousness to do what needs to be done at the Department of Justice here. How are Republican senators, Mia, coming down on the recess appointment question?
Yeah, I think the recess appointment question is going to be an issue for some Senate Republicans. The whole idea of it is to allow the president to put people in cabinet positions if the Senate is adjourned and there's some kind of crisis situation, right, where there's a position that's currently unfilled that they need to have filled quickly. Now, Trump is calling for that to be done to get through some of his more controversial cabinet picks, which is, some senators have said that they have concerns over that being, not the reason that this procedure was created. So that's ultimately where it lies there. As for Trump making those calls right now, I did just talk to Senator Kevin Cramer. He said that he did talk to Trump recently, and Trump did lay out his reasons for wanting to get the confirmation for Matt Gaetz. And apparently Matt Gaetz also called Cramer and left him a voicemail. So they're definitely reaching out to try to make their case for these picks. But we'll just see what happens from there.
So does the recess appointment question hinge on Trump or on new Senate Majority Leader-elect John Thune here? I mean, who makes the ultimate call to put this forward?
Yeah, so for the recess appointments to even happen, the Senate would need to adjourn for at least 10 days.
Okay.
So that would need to happen first. That's the first procedure for that to even be able to happen, which it's unclear right now if that would even be able to happen.
Okay. And the Gaetz report, let's go back to the Gaetz report briefly. Do we have any idea what's in it? I mean, there was some speculation that that was the reason Gaetz's resignation was effective immediately, because there were damning details in the report. We don't know what's in the report, or do we?
Yeah, the information in the report hasn't fully been leaked yet. There's wide speculation. We know that it surrounds allegations of him engaging in sexual acts with a minor. So that we know is part of the overall allegation. As for the specifics, we do not know. That information has not fully been leaked, but there have been, the Department of Justice did look into this. So we have an idea of what those allegations may entail, but the report would shed some light on this more specifics of what actually happened.
So, and lastly, Mia, the Ethics Committee is meeting on Wednesday. Will we get some type of resolution on this report after they meet, or no? Can they kick the can down the road a little bit longer? What are you going to be asking members of the Ethics Committee once they meet Wednesday?
Yeah, I mean, the Ethics Committee, they've always been pretty tight-lipped on all of this stuff, but we're going to be trying to press to see what is the path forward, because either way, it is complicated for the Ethics Committee, right? They're obviously, Johnson doesn't want it to be released. If it does get released, as he said, it could set a new precedent of having investigations into former members of Congress. But at the same time, there are many senators who are arguing that they need to have all of this information to be able to confirm Gaetz. So I think regardless, there's going to be people who have concerns, and it's a question of what happens from there.
All right. Mia McCarthy there at Politico on Capitol Hill. Mia, thanks so much. We'll chat soon.
Thanks, Andrew.
All right. In the meantime here, let's take a quick commercial break. I hope you found that informative. Of course, we'll be on the lookout after the House Ethics Committee meets on Wednesday to see whether or not they might have voted internally to either release the Gaetz report or to not release the Gaetz report. And to Mia McCarthy's point, and to senators' points that have been made here, some may need the report to do a proper vetting of Gaetz if they want Gaetz to be the next Attorney General and lead the Department of Justice. We'll see you in 2 minutes. And welcome back here to Live Now from Fox. I'm Andrew Kraft. Let's get into more of these top political headlines here. Let's focus our efforts right now on the Badger State. Live look there over a dreary Milwaukee, Wisconsin at the moment here. I want to put this up following the Wisconsin Senate race. Remember, the Associated Press last week called the race for Democratic incumbent Tammy Baldwin over her Republican challenger, Eric Hovde there. But remember, Hovde had not conceded the race yet. Well, that changed today. He posted this video conceding the race to Baldwin. Remember, there's not going to be any type of recount in this race, but let's hear from Hovde himself here.
9 months ago, I entered the race for the U.S. Senate because I love our country, and I am deeply concerned about its direction. The 4 principal issues that propelled me to run were my concerns about the U.S. government's debt crisis and excessive spending, which have put our country's financial security at risk and sparked the worst inflation in 40 years. I'm also troubled by our domestic security, impacted by the defund the police movement and the lack of control at our southern border. International security was another concern, as the policies of the Biden administration have led to conflicts breaking out worldwide. Lastly, as I've repeatedly expressed, I'm very worried about the political divisions and rhetoric that are tearing our country apart. These issues, along with other problems like our failing healthcare system and lack of affordable housing, motivated me to step away from my businesses and private life to enter this race. I'm proud of the campaign we ran and that I focused on issues instead of personal attacks. The results from election night were disappointing, particularly in light of the last-minute absentee ballots that were dropped in Milwaukee at 4 a.m., flipping the outcome. There are many troubling issues around these absentee ballots and their timing, which I addressed in my last statement. I have heard from numerous supporters urging me to challenge the election results. However, without a detailed review of all the ballots and their legitimacy, which will be difficult to obtain in the courts, a request for a recount would serve no purpose because you will just be recounting the same ballots regardless of their integrity. As a result, and my desire to not add to political strife through a contentious recount, I've decided to concede the election. I am proud that we received 1.64 million votes, more than any Republican in Wisconsin history, aside from President Trump's total on Tuesday night. Furthermore, if not for Democratic operatives placing a phony American First candidate on the ballot to deceive voters and siphon off over 28,000 votes, I would have won this race. Democratic operatives also supported a Libertarian candidate through mail and other sources without his knowledge to strip votes away from me. Are these actions to deceive and mislead voters strengthening and protecting our democracy? Any fair-minded person would say no. Obviously, the outcome is not what I had hoped for, but I do not regret entering this race. I'm passionate about our country and the future we are leaving our children and grandchildren. The issues I have raised have resonated with many. I have also had the opportunity to travel extensively throughout our beautiful state and meet so many wonderful people. We in Wisconsin are truly blessed to call this state home. What is disheartening are the tactics used against me in this race. Before I even entered, protesters were sent to my home. Phony lawsuits were launched against my companies. Millions were spent on ads making false claims about where I'm from and live, what I've said, and what I've done. Senator Baldwin's campaign focused on getting voters to hate me, even claiming I was a Californian who wanted to take senior Social Security away, pass a national abortion ban, and ban beer, none of which are remotely true. Sadly, our current political system is broken. Instead of candidates debating issues and addressing voters' concerns, campaigns are now about raising money, often from special interest groups, and launching attack ads with no basis in truth. Equally concerning is the large segments of the press that don't care to fact-check these lies and even help propagate misinformation to protect their preferred candidates. Our country desperately needs campaign reform to hold campaigns accountable for what they say and to provide better transparency on outside groups' funding and activities. I appreciate the overwhelming positive comments I have received about how I ran my campaign and conducted myself. I was raised by parents who instilled in me the values of integrity and morality, and I'm grateful so many people felt I lived up to the standard during the race. To my supporters, donors, campaign team, and my family, thank you. Your dedication was unshakable, and your belief in the campaign is what propelled us forward. I am grateful for every conversation, every event, and the countless miles traveled across this incredible state. As for my future, I don't know what it holds. After running from morning to night for 9 months and leaving it all on the field, I will take a much-needed break, then return to my businesses and foundation and find other ways to make a positive impact. One thing is certain, I will always fight for the country and state that I love and work to restore the American dream. Thank you.
All right, there you have it. Eric Hovde, the Wisconsin GOP Senate candidate, finally now conceding to Tammy Baldwin in that very close, keenly watched race there. I'm Andrew Kraft. We're fastly approaching the top of the next hour. Want to squeeze in one more, though. Top headline here. Take a look at that. This is what we call a quad box here, but really cool nighttime vantage points at 4 different airports across the country. Well, you may have heard by now the cost-friendly Spirit Airlines has filed for bankruptcy after 2 failed merger attempts with both Frontier and JetBlue. Let's go out to one of these airports where we're going to get reaction from some of these travelers. Fox News multimedia reporter Sarah Allegre joining us live there from George W. Bush Airport in Houston with the latest. Sarah, good to see you here. And obviously, Spirit, one of the nation's biggest airlines, filing for bankruptcy today. But what's the impact going to be on your everyday traveler?
Hi there. Well, Spirit Airlines says right now it's still business as usual, despite filing for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. So this means that the company can continue flying people back and forth, but it has to come up with a comprehensive plan to find its way out of this debt. Now, for now, the company says that people can book flights like they normally would. They said their tickets are valid, their points are still valid, the credit royalty rewards program that they have is good as well. Employees' pay and benefits won't be affected, the company says. The airline has made a deal with lenders to cut almost $800 million in debt. Bondholders have also come up with hundreds of millions of dollars to help keep the company running. But Spirit has pulled its stock from the New York Stock Exchange, and its shares will be canceled and have no value. The airline is known as a budget-friendly option for customers willing to ditch checked bags and assigned seating. But for the holidays, experts tell me folks aren't just looking for low fares, but reliability.
It's just a very uncertain time at a time when passengers emotionally want some certainty. There could not be a worse time of the year for them to be up against this wall. But I think that also shows you they're pretty desperate to be making this kind of an announcement just before, a week before a major holiday.
Yeah, and this is the first time a major U.S. airline has filed for Chapter 11 since 2011. But Spirit CEO says he's confident in the company's future and says he plans to get the company out of bankruptcy by sometime next year. Andrew, back to you.
All right, Sarah Allegre there live for us in Houston. Sarah, thanks so much. We'll chat soon.
Thank you.
All right, in the meantime here, I just want to do some kind of previewing of our programming later tonight. We'll be bringing on even more analysts, reporters, talking about this story, Spirit Airlines filing for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. What does it mean for the overall aviation picture in the country and the industry itself? So that'll be next hour. Let's take our final commercial break of this hour. We'll see you in 2 minutes. And welcome back here to Live Now from Fox. I'm Andrew Kraft. 6 o'clock here, Mountain Time, 8 o'clock there in the nation's capital. The Senate right now still in session. You can see there. It looks like Democratic Senator from Minnesota, Tina Smith, presiding over the chamber right now. Well, let's move from D.C. to Pennsylvania. I want to talk about the Pennsylvania Senate recount because we are getting a lot of news on that front. I want to put up, remember, the head-to-head matchup. This race has already been called by the Associated Press. Bob Casey, the longtime Democratic incumbent, losing to his Republican challenger, Dave McCormick. And you see how close the margin is there. Okay, well, we finally learned today this. The Supreme Court of Pennsylvania reaffirmed its prior decision that counties cannot count misdated or undated ballots. Okay, so the Supreme Court of the state of Pennsylvania felt the need to reaffirm this decision today after there were some county officials who essentially said that they were not going to comply with the ruling. The ruling from the court says all respondents, including the boards of elections in Bucks County, Montgomery County, and Philadelphia County, all caps, shall comply with the prior rulings of this court, in which we have clarified that mail-in and absentee ballots that fail to comply with the requirements of the Pennsylvania Election Code, all caps bolded, shall not be counted for purposes of the election held November the 5th. Fox News, though, can confirm some counties have started the official recount process in Pennsylvania. Remember, this question somewhat separate from the recount process. There is a recount ongoing, but about which ballots can be counted, that is the question the Pennsylvania State Supreme Court reaffirmed just today. A Live Now look there in Philadelphia as well. Well, the campaigns themselves, they're responding to this. This is by McCormick and Company here. Let's put this up. So this goes as follows, saying, and this is the spokesperson for McCormick's campaign, that today's ruling is a massive setback to Senator Casey's attempt to count illegal ballots. Bucks County and others blatantly violated the law in an effort to help Senator Casey. Senator-elect McCormick is very pleased with this ruling and looks forward to taking the oath of office in a few short weeks. So we also have a statement in from the campaign manager for Bob Casey for Senate, back out live there to Philly. His name, Tiernan Donahue, saying, quote, Senator Casey is fighting to ensure Pennsylvanians' voices are heard and to protect their right to participate in our democracy, just like he's done throughout his entire career. Meanwhile, David McCormick and the National Republicans are working to throw out provisional ballots cast by eligible Pennsylvania voters and accepted by county boards. It is wrong, and we will fight it. So getting both sides, both campaigns here weighing in on this reaffirmation today of the state Supreme Court ruling. So wanted to make sure we got all of this in here on Live Now. In the meantime, we're also just getting a statement in, actually. Let's put the head-to-head matchup up yet again here. This is from Montgomery County. I'm reading it right now. Montgomery County respects the Pennsylvania Supreme Court's opinion, which unfortunately means that thousands of votes cast by lawfully registered citizens will not be counted in this election. The court has not yet ruled on the merits of the Commonwealth Court's opinion in Baxter, which declared the dating requirement unconstitutional. We remain hopeful they will uphold that decision before the next election, and Montgomery County will continue to advocate for the voting rights of every citizen here. So wanted to make sure, like I said, we got all of that in. Pennsylvania's Supreme Court today weighing in on a flashpoint in this election between Casey and McCormick, ordering counties not to count mail ballots that lack a correct handwritten date on the envelope here. Now, Chairman of the Republican National Committee, Michael Whatley, he is weighing in on this as well on social media. I believe we have that tweet. He says this: McCormick Casey recount update following our latest RNC lawsuit. Today, the Pennsylvania Supreme Court ruled yet again that undated ballots cannot be counted. So that's Michael Whatley, the chairman of the RNC. He says this: no more excuses. Election officials in Bucks, Montgomery, Philadelphia, and other counties have absolutely no choice here. So this was a story we've been following since the recount was made official. Remember, because the margin between the two candidates was so slim here, legally in the state, it triggered a recount option. So that was under state law. The candidates themselves did not request a recount. But remember, Bob Casey has not conceded this race yet either. So the RNC was involved in some of these lawsuits as well. I just read out that tweet there from Michael Whatley, the chairman of the RNC. Also, the Bucks County, Pennsylvania Republican Party putting out this statement as well, saying, we won. The Pennsylvania Supreme Court issued a ruling today ordering that all 67 Pennsylvania county boards of election shall comply with their earlier ruling and shall not count misdated and undated ballots. This is a victory for election integrity and the rule of law. So wanted to get all of that in there. It was important. Michael Whatley saying, protect the vote, in reply to that tweet from Bucks County GOP here. And you can see, I just want to put this back up yet again, just how close the margin is, by under 20,000 votes there between McCormick and Casey. McCormick will be sworn in soon as the next senator-elect from Pennsylvania while this recount is ongoing. So in the meantime here, let's take our first commercial break of this new hour. We got a lot in store this hour. We'll see everyone in 2 minutes. And welcome back here to Live Now from Fox. I'm Andrew Kraft. Like I said, we're in a new hour. We have a lot more in store. Before we get into some more of those top headlines, let's just show you what I'm seeing right now. A gorgeous Live Now look there over the Statue of Liberty in New York Harbor. We have a lot of headlines emanating out of the Big Apple today, including on congestion pricing. We'll get into that a bit later. And some major crime headlines coming to us out of New York City. We just brought you this live shot there out of Philadelphia as well. We brought you updates on the Pennsylvania Senate recount going on. Live look, though, on the Senate floor at the moment. You can see senators are in session still, a little after 8 o'clock there in Washington. Let's go outside there as well to Washington. But we want to talk more about some of these proposed and stated policies that President-elect Donald Trump said numerous times on the campaign trail, including about the hotly contested issue of illegal immigration. And so President-elect Trump mentioned this today and reaffirmed this today on his social media platform, Truth Social. So we're going to be bringing in experts, analysts, guests to talk about this even further. But in the meantime, remember, one of the more controversial elements of the Trump campaign platform on illegal immigration is his plan of mass deportation of every single undocumented immigrant in the United States currently here. Now, there are some analyses and estimates about how much that would cost to carry out, also how much that would cost the overall U.S. economy, and just the likelihood, feasibility, and plausibility of it actually taking place. So we're going to get into that in just a moment here. But Many prominent Democrats are working to thwart this effort, and we have a report on that. Let's listen.
Tonight, President-elect Trump is vowing on Truth Social to use the full resources of the federal government, including declaring a national emergency and deploying the U.S. military to make good on plans to increase deportations of illegal immigrants.
On day one, I will launch the largest deportation program.
Tom Homan is the incoming administration's border czar.
Already working on the plan. I'll be going down to Mar-a-Lago this week to put the final touches on the plan. But yeah, we're going to take the handcuffs off ICE.
From the streets of New York to the halls of Capitol Hill, Democrats are vowing to block Trump's plans.
We will be playing a lot of defense, I know, over the next couple of years, protecting our communities, particularly our immigrant communities.
Pew Research estimates there are 11 million illegal immigrants living in the U.S. Trump officials say they plan to prioritize those who pose a risk to public safety for deportation first.
Any caravan that's trying to get into the country now, they're going to be apprehended and sent home.
Democrats on the local and state level are vowing to block any such effort.
I'm going to do everything that I can to protect our undocumented immigrants, the residents of our state.
On Capitol Hill, top Republicans say they support Trump's plans, which were laid out repeatedly before the election.
This is what the American people have demanded and what they deserve. They want a secure country. They want a secure border, and we will deliver upon that.
The incoming administration expected to also roll back parole options for asylum seekers coming from countries like Cuba, Venezuela, and Haiti. Our latest Fox News voter analysis finds more than 2/3 of voters favor limiting the number of people allowed to apply for asylum. In Washington, Mark Meredith, Fox News.
Mark, thanks so much. So this is what kind of sparked this story today. I want to put this up here. So Tom Fitton there at Judicial Watch posted that on Truth Social. He said, good news, reports are the incoming Trump administration prepared to declare a national emergency and will use military assets to reverse the Biden invasion through a mass deportation. Trump replying, true. All caps, 3 exclamation points. Let's talk about this plan that seems to be in utero right now. It doesn't seem to be fully fleshed out, but members of the Trump inner circle are full speed ahead on it. I want to bring into the conversation our friend there at the American Immigration Council, Naina Gupta, to help us make sense of this. And she joins us. Naina, I wanted to bring up this with you. And Naina, good to see you. Thanks for being with us. I think a lot of people are asking just straight up, simply, how would this work? How do you deport millions of undocumented immigrants who are in the country right now? Where do you even start?
Right. Thanks so much for having me, Andrew. So the short answer is that this kind of mass deportation proposal would cost a significant amount of money and a significant amount of resources. And, this is not just an immigration policy. This is an economic proposal. And our calculation at the American Immigration Council is that this would essentially crater the U.S. economy. So, there are approximately 11 million undocumented people living in the United States. And, deporting that many folks would be a years-long effort. Deporting even 1 million people per year for the cost of arresting them, detaining them, processing them, and actually removing them from the United States would cost around $1 trillion over a 10-year period. And the resources required to do that would go far beyond traditional immigration authorities. It would require cooperation from local police enforcement, possibly from the United States military. These are resources that would be diverted away from other critical national interests in order to pull something like this off. And in addition, to just the cost that would impose on the United States government, there would be seismic effects on the U.S. economy, in particular, the labor market and our tax base.
So, Naina, there was a lot in there. Let's go back, though, because I get this question a lot. And Donald Trump offered varying figures on the campaign trail. What are the estimates? How many undocumented immigrants are here right now?
So there are approximately 11 million people living in the United States who are in violation of civil immigration law, many of whom have lived here for many years, who contribute richly to our communities. You know, something a lot of Americans don't know is that undocumented immigrants, many of them pay taxes. In 2022, undocumented immigrants paid over $46 billion in federal taxes and another $29 billion in state and local taxes. These 11 million people are at risk under this proposal that Trump is threatening.
So, you know, Nina, other than the costs that you guys did there at AIC, the cost analysis and estimate of what it would take to just do this policy, you're also analyzing and estimating the costs to the overall U.S. economy. You cited there the tax base that even some of this undocumented immigration brings into the U.S. Treasury. Also, you noted that if they were all to be deported, your estimates that the U.S. GDP would shrink by $1.1 to $1.7 trillion here. What does that mean, particularly for the overall U.S. economy, and why is that the case?
Right. So the first thing to think about is our labor market, right? So an attempt to remove undocumented people would affect various industries. So, you know, construction would lose 1 in 8 workers. This would mean increases in construction costs, and along with it, increases in housing prices. Agriculture would also lose 1 in 8 workers. These are workers who tend to be growers, pickers, packers. We would expect to see a decrease in domestic food prices, in domestic food production, and therefore further increases in food prices. 1 million undocumented people are immigrant entrepreneurs who actually create jobs. So even having one undocumented person here creates opportunity for many others, non-citizens and otherwise. So our estimates here are not just about the direct costs, but particularly the cost to the labor market, and then how that would affect our GDP.
So I want to talk about these estimates here, especially you guys there at AIC. I mean, are they falling on deaf ears? Are you getting reception about what this might mean for the overall U.S. economy? Or are those who are promulgating this type of policy platform here, are they taking that in or not?
So far, it seems as if Trump and the folks he's chosen to lead this immigration agenda are not being straightforward with the American people about what the financial and economic costs of this proposal would be. But, you know, members of Congress who for many years have seen how expensive it can be to enforce civil immigration law in an aggressive and punitive manner are crystal clear on how much money this could cost and how much money this would divert away from, efforts to create a fair, functioning immigration system that we're overdue to create. And the way that it would undermine not just immigrant communities who have a rich history here in the United States, but all of our communities, particularly places that have seen depopulation or rural decline, where undocumented immigrants and immigrant communities have helped revitalize communities, making them attractive for U.S.-born residents as well.
What are immigrant advocates saying about this? Because there was a key tenet of Trump's immigration platform, and you remember back in 2016, Mexico will pay for the border wall. That didn't necessarily pan out. Are they seeing this policy, the rhetoric around this idea, in a similar vein to that, a la 2016, that this may be a pipe dream? Is it a pipe dream? Is it feasible? Is it plausible? Will it actually happen? Or are folks in your orbit preparing for the likelihood that it will happen? We just don't know how.
So I think it's both, Andrew, right? There's no question that pulling this off is going to face significant obstacles in terms of the resources it needs, particularly for processing and actually removing people, sometimes to countries that won't accept deported people returning to their countries. However, on the front end, arresting and apprehending people by using local police, by initiating worksite raids, by working with the U.S. military, this will absolutely impose significant harm on immigrant and American communities. And, even just the threat of this operation has a chilling effect on immigrant workers, immigrant community members who become scared to be out in public, to go to work, to report crime. It can decrease public safety. So even if he is ineffective or unsuccessful in seeing this through, the front end part of this process, the arrest and apprehension process and the rhetoric around it on its own has a chilling effect on our communities.
So, according to government data, President Biden deported more immigrants in fiscal year 2023 than any Trump year. I mean, deportations will still happen. Do you envision, though, depending on how this plan is fleshed out, that there will be carve-outs, exemptions, so on and so forth, if it happens?
Right. So what we understand from the proposal so far is that in order to hit the numbers that they are threatening, there's no way this can just be targeted, for example, to immigrants with serious criminal records. In order to reach these numbers, Trump's mass deportation policy would necessarily sweep in very many people who, other than being in violation of civil immigration law and having no access to a pathway to status, have no other contact with our legal systems, but would nevertheless be swept up in this. So, we can't know whether there will be carve-outs or not, but what we know is that the tools they're threatening right now would absolutely sweep in many more people than what we have seen in the past, and that on day one, people would wake up with no sense of whether they're definitely at risk or not. And that is a scary proposition for many folks.
Yeah, Nana, I mean, illegal immigration is a huge problem. The crisis at the southern border is a huge problem. Is it perceived by you guys there at AIC that this is a carte blanche panacea approach to that problem, illegal immigration, in one fell swoop? Can there be more nuance in solutions, on Capitol Hill, legislatively, so to speak, executive order, what have you?
Of course.
To kind of break apart some of these ideas. So we have some border officials who have already been tapped by President-elect Donald Trump. Tom Homan, former ICE director, he's going to be the border czar. Also Kristi Noem, the governor of South Dakota, she's been tapped as DHS secretary here. What are you hearing from them on that issue?
So let me just separate two things here, right? Removing people who are newly arriving at the border is one piece of the puzzle when it comes to the immigration system. How we process people, how we allow them to make a claim for any kind of humanitarian protection. What Homan and Trump and Stephen Miller are threatening is an aggressive increase in enforcement of civil immigration laws in the interior of the U.S. So yes, Homan will be border czar, but he will also be deporter in chief of people who are our neighbors here in our community. And that is a very different look and a different kind of immigration enforcement than what we've been focused on the last 4 years at the southern border with people arriving at the U.S.-Mexico border. And that distinction is really important. So when Homan talks about working with local police or worksite raids, they're talking about unannounced arrests and apprehensions in meatpacking industry, in farms in rural areas, coming into communities where a couple of people might be under ICE surveillance, and they use those people to identify other undocumented family members. This is a different kind of enforcement agenda that they're promoting and threatening. And, it can be easy for folks to say, well, they won't be able to carry this out. They won't have the resources they need. But I, underscore that on the front end, worksite raids, arrests, apprehensions, all of that, they have existing infrastructure they can start tapping into day one to do this on the interior of the United States.
All right, and there's kind of what set this all off here. I mean, here on Live Now, we've heard this from President-elect Trump on the campaign trail for months. Now that he will be in office in a few weeks, a matter of time here, we'll see whether or not this policy goes forward or gets fleshed out in some capacity, and we hope to bring you on again, Nana, to talk about it. Thanks so much. We'll talk soon.
Thank you so much. Take care.
All right, in the meantime here, hope you found that conversation informative and helpful. We wanted to break that down. Nana's a great resource there at AIC to help us make sense of what President Trump-elect Donald Trump means when he says mass deportation and what that policy might look like. Let's take another quick commercial break. We'll see everyone in 2 minutes. And welcome back here to Live Now from Fox. I'm Andrew Kraft. Well, speaking on the southern border, Arizona Governor Katie Hobbs was down in Nogales today. You'll hear from her in just a moment. Speaking of Arizona, though, a gorgeous nighttime skyline view there in Phoenix, Arizona. But first, Governor Hobbs talking about the border. Let's watch.
Across our state, they are directing traffic through x-ray machines, breaking down vehicles, assessing every potential threat coming into our state. And they are working hand in hand to support the mission of U.S. Customs and Border Protection. These Arizona service members have come here with one goal: to prevent dangerous drugs from coming into our state. They are Task Force Safe. Task Force Safe isn't just a state initiative. It's an urgent response to the realities that our communities experience at the border and across the state. As governor, I have spoken many times with local and federal law enforcement leadership to hear what their officers and our communities face every single day. I've heard stories of tragic overdoses, violence in our communities, and cities like Nogales suffering from strained resources. As I continued to have these conversations, two things became very clear. One, the people on the ground are doing the very best they can with what they've got. And two, this crisis is happening in real time and requires real action. When I launched Task Force Safe, it wasn't about making headlines. I saw an opportunity for the state to step in, to mobilize our resources to make a tangible difference in partnership with federal agencies. And today, I'm proud to share the progress this team has made. Task Force Safe has supported the seizure of more than 6 million fentanyl pills and over 1,400 pounds of meth, cocaine, fentanyl powder, and heroin. Every fentanyl pill taken off the street, every ounce of heroin seized, every gram of cocaine stopped is a serious blow to the cartels and drug traffickers doing Arizonans harm. They represent saved lives, families protected, and communities strengthened. And this is what real impact looks like. But our commitment goes beyond Task Force Safe. This work builds on the more than 170 service members embedded in law enforcement agencies across the state as part of the National Guard's counter-drug program. It expands our efforts to ports of entry and increases our statewide operational capacity by over 20%. These efforts are just part of a comprehensive multi-million-dollar strategic effort by my administration to crack down on drug trafficking, support law enforcement, and deliver treatment to Arizonans affected by the fentanyl crisis. In addition to launching Task Force Safe, we established a border coordination office in the Arizona Department of Homeland Security to bolster cooperation among local, state, tribal, and federal law enforcement partners. I signed legislation to crack down on high-volume fentanyl traffickers. We delivered over $84 million in funding to law enforcement across the border. We're supporting veterans' substance abuse treatment programs. We're equipping more first responders with life-saving overdose medication, reversal medication. And we're looking forward to further strengthen federal and state cooperation through increased intelligence sharing between DPS and CBP. Today's progress should serve as a reminder that we will not rest. The people of Arizona and this nation want more than words. They want results. They want politicians to treat the border as more than a convenient place for a photo op. They want leaders who will take action. Protecting our border is not a Republican or Democratic issue. It is an Arizona and an American issue. And that's why I will work with anyone to secure our border. Just as I worked with this current administration to launch Task Force Safe, I will work with the next one to deliver border security. That means more resources for the men and women standing with me today, upgraded equipment, additional personnel, the technology they need to keep Arizona and America safe. and I will be relentless in advocating for those resources from Congress and the White House. What I won't do is tolerate attacks on Arizona families. I will not allow everyday Arizonans to suffer from misguided policies that will only divert resources from the important work happening here and across our border. Task Force SAFE has shown us that with clear goals and the right support, we can make a difference. As the governor of a border state, I have seen what we can accomplish through partnership, and I'm proud to lead a state that doesn't shy away from difficult challenges. And I'm committed to working across the aisle and across every level of government to find solutions that last. We are seeing the results of that partnership today, and this is just the beginning of our success. The people in uniform with us here today can tell you the fight against cartels and bad actors transcends any one person or political party. We must continue working together to stand strong against them. As I've always done, I will continue to put politics aside to deliver for Arizonans. To the cartels and bad actors seeking to harm our communities, my message is clear. Arizona stands united against you. My administration, our National Guardsmen, Arizona State Troopers, local law enforcement, Customs and Border Protection officers, and Border Patrol agencies are all united in putting you out of business, and today we are a step closer to doing that. I want to thank
Well, I just wanted to let you guys listen to a little bit of Governor Hobbs there in Nogales today in Arizona. Let's take another quick commercial break. We're just a little past the bottom of the hour, though. When we come back, we want to dive into some of the woes that have befallen Spirit Airlines filing for Chapter 11 bankruptcy today. What does it mean, and will they get some type of bailout? How are consumers perceiving this as well? I have a lot of questions. I know you do too. We'll see you in 2 minutes. And welcome back here to Live Now from Fox. I'm Andrew Kraft. Let's keep it moving here with so many more of these top headlines. I want to focus our efforts on the aviation industry right now. Some cool vantage points, though, at airports across the country. Looks to be a little bit stormy there in St. Louis. You see there Atlanta, LAX, and Philly as well. Well, this is what we know about Spirit Airlines after years of financial losses and a failed merger attempt. Spirit filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection just today. The low-cost carrier announced it reached a deal with its bondholders to restructure its debts, and it expects to continue flying as normal. During the bankruptcy process, the airline says it will continue to honor all tickets, credits, and loyalty points. Spirit is the first major U.S. airline to file for Chapter 11 since 2011. Still, though, the move did not come as a surprise, since the company has not posted a full-year profit since 2019. It's the nation's seventh largest carrier. Remember, it tried to merge with JetBlue, but the deal was blocked by a federal judge in January after the Department of Justice and several state attorneys general sued to stop it. Let's talk about all of this and more with our friend there at Barron's, Al Root. He joins me. And Al, thanks for being with us here. It feels like we were just talking about all the troubles that have befallen Boeing, and now we want to talk about the troubles that have befallen Spirit Airlines here. So, Al, did you see this coming?
Yeah. I mean, I think, you laid it out quite well, right? You had, it's the seventh largest carrier. You're going to try and merge with JetBlue to try and build some scale and be sort of a more substantial, low-cost carrier. JetBlue, I think, has about 260 planes or maybe 300 planes. Let's say Spirit has closer to 250 planes. So you're going to have, build a company that, maybe a third, 40% the size of, say, like a Delta Airlines. And then that deal got nixed. Spirit was definitely the weaker of the two parties. Wasn't generating free cash flow, uses about $100 million a quarter. You pointed out they don't make full year profit. So, the writing was on the wall. Coming into the week, and again, I might get the math wrong a little bit. We're talking about the stock down, 85% year to date. Now it's down, 93% year to date. It's trading for $1. It's going to be delisted. The market capitalization is, $100 million. The debt's, in the $6-7 billion range. So once the deal was nixed, the writing was sort of on the wall for Spirit. And so now, instead of, sort of a merger, now we have a restructuring. And that's what the fate of Spirit will be.
Yeah, Nell, I wanted to bring up, too, with you, this fact that, the DOJ blocked its merger with JetBlue, and then Spirit tried to merge with Frontier. Is there any other takers that might take Spirit in, Al?
Not really.
No?
So they'll continue to operate. What happens in restructuring, right? Basically, the debt holders are going to end up owning the airline. Interest payments, things like that will be drastically reduced. You try and get it to the point where it's financially sustainable. Maybe you can revisit a JetBlue deal or a Frontier deal in another administration. Maybe depending on how the restructuring process goes, people could take the planes or take the routes. Spirit is an Airbus flyer. It flies an all Airbus fleet, similar to like a JetBlue. So you have to match up fleet types. But no, there really isn't that many takers. That deal got nixed, right? Because, mergers tend to be anti-competitive. But when you're talking about like the fifth and seventh merging, it's not that big a change in market share. And like if you were to say like, oh, Spirit would go away, the loss of that capacity would tighten up the market, end up in higher prices. So, this isn't too much of an editorial. The Biden administration did not look kindly on almost any merger, and this is sort of the natural outcome of nixing, what was a deal to try and create a sustainable company.
So, Al, what about, we're a week out from Thanksgiving. We're on the precipice of the busy holiday season. Should stakeholders and passengers and consumers, should they worry about the durability of Spirit during that season while this is ongoing? The statement says today they shouldn't, but should they?
No. So they should worry about, Thanksgiving Day conversations with family. They should worry about how long they have to stay there. They should worry about the misery of traveling long distances on Thanksgiving week. But to be serious, so Spirit says they're going to continue operating. When you go into Chapter 11, right, so they secured $300 million in cash effectively to keep operating through this process. So that's more than enough to keep things running. So while we don't know exactly what will happen, none of it should be disorderly, right? So they'll continue to operate. They'll operate through the holiday. And so now the end game for Spirit is, will it be a standalone company? Will it be sold in pieces? Will somebody else pick it up? But from a consumer perspective, if you had a ticket, they'll honor it. I will go on record. You can come back and email me if something bad happens. But Spirit won't ruin your Thanksgiving. Your family will ruin your Thanksgiving.
Words of wisdom there. Al, I got to ask, though, what about the leadership structure at Spirit right now? Are you anticipating any restructuring when it comes to that? The CEO, the board, is anyone leaving or getting terminated over this?
That's a really good question. And actually, I wasn't, I was thinking of financials. Typically, you'll see everything turn over. And that's not atypical. I'm not sure if people will stay or if they'll bring in somebody new, but when this process ends, let's say Spirit survives and tries to go it again as a standalone company, seventh largest in the U.S., it'll probably have a completely new management team with a plan for sustainability, right? Like, we got to go to market this way because what the last regime did didn't work. So there will be a ton of changes coming to Spirit, and it'll include management. And really, the bondholders now are, in basically control of the company. So whatever they want to do in terms of negotiating the exit from bankruptcy, it'll include new management almost for sure.
Can we talk about kind of wider market trends here in the industry itself writ large, Al? Because, the industry doesn't have many low-budget, low-cost airlines. I'm thinking of Allegiant, Frontier, JetBlue, and others. But with Spirit, depending on what happens with it, yes, it's going to be operating still, but does that just tell you that maybe the market right now, maybe the industry is not ripe to sustain yet another low-fare budget airline here? Does it spell any premonitions that way, you think, or no? Can they still sustain that?
You know, this is a good question again, and it's sort of longer, right? Like the low fare portion of the universe is good because it sort of keeps large airlines honest and it offers lower fares. You know, when JetBlue was new, if you remember, you know, some part of the magic of low fare airlines is when they're new and they start up, they have brand new planes that are very cheap to operate. They have relatively young workforces that are relatively cheap to pay versus a Delta or a United or an American Airlines with experienced pilots flying big planes. And then if you lose your handle on costs, you basically erode your advantage. So, you know, there is a role, there's always a role for low-fare airlines, whether it's a Southwest. I know Southwest is changing and it's had its own issues. Whether it's a JetBlue, you need that in the market to keep everybody honest. But, you know, overall, the struggle of Spirit, and if it was to shrink, that's sort of like inflationary, right? Because it would take, you know, 260 planes out of the market. You know, you could almost say, well, you know, the market was designed in a way where it couldn't make this company sustainable. That's true. It's just, it's part of the problem is it's so small. Like, let's say there's 5,000 planes flying around the U.S. This is like 250.
Okay. I mean,
but we do need low-cost airlines. They're a good part of this equation to keep us all flying relatively cheaply.
Yeah, I mean, Al, lastly here, I mean, do you attribute this all to Spirit internally, some of their perceived failures? Is it all Spirit's fault? I mean, Spirit tried to merge with JetBlue. They tried to get bought by Frontier. The kind of anti-trust, anti-merger Biden administration and atmosphere just put up roadblocks time and time again for that to happen here. So they tried. But ultimately, at the end of the day, was it really just their fault or external factors, too?
Yeah. I mean, I do think that there are external factors, right? COVID, right, was a difficult period for airlines. They did try and do what I think was a sensible thing to do, merge with JetBlue. I think that was a good deal, would have created a stronger company, and that was ultimately denied. You know, but they're the ones with their cost structure. So you know, if we apportion blame, you can sort of say, listen, you know, they got a raw deal on maybe one or two things, and then, you know, choices over time led them to have an unsustainable cost structure. But it's not all their fault. It really isn't all their fault.
Okay. Al Rood from Barron's, we'll leave it at that. Al, always a pleasure talking, and we'll chat soon.
Thanks, Andrew.
All right, in the meantime here, we are fastly approaching the top of the next hour. Want to stay, though, with some news in the transportation sector here. We're going to New York City. Live now look there over the Big Apple, the gorgeous nighttime skyline view. Well, New York Governor Kathy Hochul's congestion pricing plan, it was approved today by the Metropolitan Transit Authority Board. Remember, last week, Hochul announced a revised plan to launch congestion pricing. She wants to lower the toll to enter Manhattan below 60th Street from $15 to $9. Now, the plan is set to take effect now on January 5th. We are bringing you stories about congestion pricing because now New York City will become the first city in the country to have this, known as congestion pricing, forcing drivers to pay to drive in parts of New York City below 60th Street here. Fox 5 New York reporter Morgan Mackay has the latest. Let's listen.
Varies. We've adopted the resolution.
The newly revised congestion pricing plan was approved by the MTA board by a 12-1 vote. Nassau County Representative David Mack was the only member to vote against it.
There are many other things we can do to get the revenue and even more.
And adding this tax on hardworking New Yorkers is inexcusable.
Drivers entering Manhattan below 60th Street are now going to have to pay a $9 toll. The MTA then plans to increase this toll to $12 in 2028 and $15 in 2031. The new plan needs federal sign-off once again, but all 110 toll readers are already in place for the toll to go into effect on January 5th. Congestion pricing is supposed to generate $15 billion for MTA capital projects and accessibility station upgrades. Now that the program has been unpaused, the MTA says it will now resume work on the 2nd Avenue subway expansion, 6 elevator projects, as well as a purchase of 270 electric buses and A and C train signal upgrades.
It's the only policy that's going to deliver on all those things. Less traffic, cleaner air, better transit.
Governor Kathy Hochul put congestion pricing on pause right before it was set to go into effect this summer, saying at the time that the cost of the toll would have been too high of a burden on New Yorkers. But after the election, Hochul decided to unpause the program with this lower toll since President-elect Donald Trump has promised to kill congestion pricing once in office. Congressman Jerry Nadler says he doesn't believe that Trump will be able to stop the toll if it is already in place.
No, there is no legal pathway. The only legal danger is if a court should strike this down, which I don't think is going to happen.
Besides the lawsuits, a coalition of Republican congressional members are also working to stop the toll, writing a letter to Trump asking that he kill congestion pricing through executive order. MTA Chair and CEO Janno Lieber says there is no plan B if Trump does end up pulling the plug.
We're not contingency planning for failure, if that's what you're asking.
All right, that was Fox 5 New York reporter Morgan McKay. And we thank Morgan for that report. In the meantime, let's take our final commercial break of the hour. When we come back, though, we're staying in New York City, a deadly stabbing taking place there. We'll have details on it in 2 minutes.